After being teleported to the elven forest, Arthur begins his journey back home. But as he walks, he suddenly hears a terrifying scream coming from the other side of the woods. It sounds like the scream of a little girl. Immediately, he focuses mana into his feet and starts running to check what's going on. He leaps to the top of a tall tree to get a good vantage point. From up there, he clearly sees a group of bandits kidnapping a girl. She tries to escape, but the bandits have already grabbed her and cover her mouth to keep her from screaming. Since the girl is an elf, the bandits plan to sell her as a slave on the black market for a good profit. Once they leave the forest, they tie the girl up and put her in the back of the cart. As Arthur watches it all unfold, he has flashbacks of the moment he and his family were also attacked by bandits. He remembers hearing the bandits talking about keeping him alive along with the women to sell them as slaves later, and this fills him with deep rage. His first impulse is to slaughter all the bandits for committing such a horrible crime, but he remembers what Sylvia told him about controlling his anger. So, he takes a deep breath and tries to calm down. Arthur understands that if he attacked at that moment, he could put the girl's life in danger. Therefore, he decides to be patient and wait for the right moment to act. All the bandits get into the cart and begin to leave the forest, and Arthur follows closely from the shadows. At dusk, the bandits are forced to stop to rest and set up camp, since they can't travel in the dark. Arthur wonders if he should keep following them until they reach a human city, or if he should attack them right there. But upon hearing one of the bandits say that his favorite race is elves, Arthur realizes he can't leave the girl alone with him any longer. Even so, he needs to wait until it's completely dark before taking action. So, he sits down and begins meditating to mentally prepare for the bloodbath to come. As soon as it's dark enough, Arthur opens his eyes and starts planning the attack. He notices that the bandits have a group of horned wolves tied up with collars, and he finds it strange that the wolves obey humans so easily. Upon closer inspection, he sees that the animals are wearing magical collars that force them to obey. Arthur decides to use this to his advantage and throws some rocks at the wolves to agitate them. The bandits hear the howling, and the leader sends one of them to go shut the damn beasts up. The bandit gets up and kicks one of the wolves in the neck to make it stop barking. At that moment, with the enemy distracted, Arthur takes the opportunity. He summons a mana blade and leaps behind the bandit. In seconds, the man is dead with a single strike. Arthur takes his weapon, and when another bandit shows up to see what's going on, Arthur jumps on his back and slits his throat. 2 bandits down, but Arthur's body is already starting to feel tired, so he needs to act fast. Another bandit approaches to check why the other 2 are taking so long. Arthur tries to kill him quickly too, but unfortunately misses the vital organs. The man screams and alerts the others to Arthur's presence. The bandit leader realizes Arthur is a mage, so he knows it won't be an easy fight. But he doesn't want to kill him either, as selling a mage boy on the black market would fetch even more than the elf. The leader begins to channel magic into his arms and attacks Arthur. Arthur jumps back and tries to counterattack with a kick, but the bandit dodges. He tries to surprise him by throwing a knife, but the bandit catches it midair and uses it against him. As a result, Arthur is thrown to the ground, and the bandit lifts him by the ankles to mock him. He says Arthur doesn't stand a chance against an adult in terms of strength, and Arthur realizes he's right. So, he decides to attack with magic. He fires a fireball directly at the bandit's knee. As the man screams in pain, Arthur stabs him in the head with the knife. Now, only the bandit who was injured earlier is left. After he's taken down as well, Arthur runs to check on the girl in the cart. The girl had been blindfolded the whole time and has no idea what happened. Arthur reassures her, saying all the bandits have been defeated and that she's safe now. Her name is Tesha. When Arthur helps her out of the cart, he tells her she can return home. But Tesha notices a bit of blood on Arthur's hand and gets worried about him. Arthur understands that it's natural for children to be scared at the sight of blood, so he concludes that it wouldn't be a good idea to let her see the bodies scattered on the ground. He asks her to wait a bit and goes to cover the corpses with a tarp. Tesha asks what happened to the kidnappers, and Arthur doesn't want to admit he killed them, so he just says they had an accident and won't bother her anymore. The girl doesn't ask any more questions. Arthur gathers her belongings from the bandit's cart and says goodbye, as he needs to continue his journey. However, Tesha grabs his arm and pleads with him to stay, because she's afraid of being alone. If Arthur leaves her there, she might be devoured by tree ghosts or something. He asks if she knows the way back, and she says yes, but she doesn't know how long it will take to reach her village. Arthur doesn't like the idea of going on a detour, but he knows Tesha wouldn't survive on her own, so he agrees to escort her home. He looks at the wolves the bandits had captured, and even considers using them as transportation. But since he doesn't know how to control wolves, he decides to leave them behind. Tesha insisted that, at the very least, they should remove the magical collars from the wolves so they could return to the forest. Arthur warned her that the wolves might attack as soon as the collars were taken off, but she believed they would be fine since she hadn't done anything to anger them. Besides, as someone who lived in the forest, she felt it was her duty to care for the creatures that inhabited it. She ended up removing the wolves' collars, and as expected, they simply returned peacefully to the forest. The next morning, Arthur and Tessia continued toward the elven village and, after a while, stopped to eat. Arthur made a simple stew and told her she needed to eat to have energy for the long journey. Tessia commented that it smelled strange, and Arthur admitted he wasn't exactly a culinary expert. The dish was made only with dried meat and salt, so the taste wasn't the best, but it was better than going hungry. Tessia asked why Arthur had come to the Elshire forest, since it was rare for humans to appear there, especially a child alone. Arthur explained how he got separated from his family and ended up in that place. They kept talking, and he asked what it was like living in the kingdom of Eleanor. Tessia said she loved it. Although her parents were always busy with work, she spent most of her time with her grandfather and her servant. They resumed their journey, but since Tessia didn't know exactly how far the village was, it was hard to predict how long it would take. To make matters worse, the wolves Tessia had freed began following them. Arthur regretted not having killed them from the start. That night, Arthur decided to keep watch outside the tent to protect Tessia from a possible attack. After a while, Tessia opened the tent and asked him to sleep beside her. Arthur said he wasn't sleepy and preferred to keep watch outside, but Tessia begged, saying she was scared to be alone. Arthur gave in and agreed to keep watch from inside the tent for her. Despite pretending not to be afraid, she insisted that Arthur stay right next to her the entire time. Before falling asleep, Tessia asked if it was true that all humans were perverts who married multiple wives. Arthur was shocked by the question and wanted to know where she heard that. Tessia replied that her grandfather told her. Arthur admitted that people like that did exist, especially in the Garrett family, but that, in general, humans were modest. Tessia believed him and quickly fell asleep. The wolves didn't attack, and the next morning, the two continued their journey. Tessia was getting closer to Arthur, and, now that she had managed to forget about the slave traders, seemed much happier. However, she still had zero survival skills and couldn't even cross a small stream by herself. Arthur had to carry her. Suddenly, Arthur felt a strange, throbbing pain in his chest, not knowing what was happening to him. Tessia ran off in search of medicinal herbs that could help, but Arthur felt that this wasn't a normal illness. While he was leaning against a tree, the wolf from before appeared, and Arthur panicked since he wasn't in any condition to fight. Tessia returned with the herbs, and Arthur warned her to stay away, afraid the wolf might be dangerous. To his surprise, the animal simply dropped a dead boar in front of him and walked away. Arthur was baffled, but Tessia assumed the wolf was trying to thank him for his earlier help. That night, they camped and roasted meat over fire. It tasted far better than the stew, and Tessia loved it. While looking for herbs, she had found some mushrooms and offered them to Arthur, but he probably shouldn't have accepted them. The mushrooms gave him intense diarrhea. After relieving himself, Arthur was exhausted and nearly passed out, but Tessia kept talking. She said her grandfather used to read her storybooks about the human and dwarf kingdoms, and that she had always wanted to visit those places, but she had never been allowed to, as elves didn't trust the other races. At that moment, Tessia noticed Arthur wasn't paying attention, but understood he was just sleepy. So, she covered him with a blanket and wished him good night. The next morning, they resumed the journey, but Arthur's chest pain worsened. Tessia apologized for not being able to help, but he told her it was nothing serious. Changing the subject, Tessia asked if she could call him Artie, since she already considered him a friend. After all, they had spent a lot of time together and grown very close. Arthur said he didn't mind and agreed to be her friend. Tessia was surprised by his calm reaction. Arthur then joked, saying he would treasure every moment that the great lady Tessia considered him a friend. That annoyed her, and she told him to stop acting like a child. Arthur found it funny, since she was the one who had begged him to stay by her side all night because she was scared. Tessia replied that had been totally different. Jokes aside, Arthur realized that Tessia was his first real friend. Not even in his past life had he had that. People had always feared him, and he had never been able to call anyone a friend. Suddenly, Tessia saw something familiar and called Arthur to come see. He expected it to be a weird-looking branch or something like that, but instead, he came face-to-face with a giant tree with a portal in its center. Tessia explained that this was the entrance to the elven village and extended her hand to him, inviting him to go with her.